Anna, hi darling, it's David. And you, my dear, are my last date of the day, in preparation for the forthcoming tour.
Hello, David. Good day. I've heard about that. It's quite a big deal.
What, the tour?
Yes, of course.
Oh, yeah. We started in the U.S. We did a long 3-month U.S. tour, which was the most successful we've done since I reformed Whitesnake back in 2003. So that was amazing. And although, some of the Deep Purple songs weren't as well known as I know my European friends will know them. So it's really doubly exciting. This show will have Whitesnake music from the very beginning and right up to featuring a bunch of Deep Purple music from Mark III and Mark IV. It truly is exciting, Anna. A pleasure to work. My musicians are fabulous. They play the music great. Totally inspiring to me as a performer. It's just really exciting times.
I was teasing you.
From what I can hear, it seems like you're having a lot of fun during the tour.
Baby, if I wasn't having fun, I wouldn't be doing it. It has to be. That element, there's a bunch of elements that fuel inspiration and passion, but fun is definitely something that,
Well, let's talk about the tour a little more. You've been to North America. October is booked for Japan.
I leave this weekend. My son and I are driving to Los Angeles a couple of days before I have to fly off to Japan because he starts college. Huge, exciting thing for us to be doing. My son is going to study to be an actor, and that's really exciting. And then I think it's the 16th or something, I fly off to Osaka.
Congratulations to your son.
He very proudly wears a picture of Alexander the Great around his neck, a gift that I was given the last time I had the pleasure of being in Macedonia.
So he's now carrying the legacy to his college?
Yeah, he's Jasper the Great.
I'm very happy to hear that. The Purple album, it contains some of the Deep Purple classics re-recorded years later from your band Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Why the Purple album now? Why re-record songs from your days as a member of Deep Purple?
I understand. It's a really long answer that I will try to make short. In 2012, I got a message from John Lord, who, it had already been announced, John had been diagnosed with cancer.
Yes.
And a very aggressive cancer too. We spoke and he asked me, he was determined to beat it, and asked me on his recovery if I would do a Deep Purple reunion thing. And I said, absolutely, I will be there for you. And sadly, John passed away, as we know. One of the things that I felt it was necessary to do was to reach out to Ritchie Blackmore after a very negative, competitive time for many years. Ritchie and I got on really well during our time together in Deep Purple, and then became very competitive when it was Rainbow and Whitesnake, the early days. And we hadn't seen each other, and in fact, one time we did see each other, we ended up having a physical fight, which is bad for anybody, but terrible for musicians. But I had the powerful feeling to reach out to Ritchie to express my grief and to express my sorrow with him for the loss of such an incredible friend and colleague. And I'm very happy to say that Ritchie and I buried any negative energy and were just very positive, talking to each other. In fact, he was incredibly complimentary to me for being so successful without relying on the Purple connection. And that was huge for me because Ritchie is definitely one of my heroes and definitely an amazing teacher for me. Once we were, communicating very comfortably, he asked me to speak to his manager, Carol. And Carol asked me if I would be interested in doing a Purple-related project with Ritchie. So I suggested, okay, if we do this, why not Keith Emerson as a keyboard player? She asked me, Ritchie said, would you prefer to use Roger or Glenn? I said, of course, Glenn Hughes, he's my soul brother. So and during this time, I was digging out the music from Burn and Stormbringer because I knew Ritchie wouldn't want to do anything from Come Taste the Band. And I was relearning, reconnecting with this music, and I was already starting to rearrange stuff and hoping that Richie would be open to put a fresh coat of paint on the House of Purple. That the more Carol discussed business ideas and stuff with me, the more I realized that it wasn't something that I wanted to continue doing. So I very respectfully withdrew from any further conversations. And then I was having dinner with my wife, and I said, it's so disappointing that I've done all of this work and it's not going to see the light of day. And it was my wife who said, well, why don't you make it as a Whitesnake project? And I went, oh my God. So I gave it some thought, and I thought, well, wow, at this time in my life, how appropriate would it be for me to go out and finish as I started, you know? And the Purple management have never, ever put out a best of Mark III and Mark IV, so I went, fuck it, let's do it. And my musicians were all positive, the record company was positive, and the album's been incredibly successful. So, you know, it was a good move. However, I don't think it's my last record, Anna.
Well, I hope it's not your last record, and we're all very happy that you have the wisdom of your wife next to you.
Yes. Well, that's one of, you know, we're celebrating 25 years together this year, so, you know, I think she's extraordinarily good for me. Hopefully I'm as good for her. But yeah, so it's an amazing opportunity. The songs don't feel old when we perform them. Yesterday, I was listening to some of the live recordings from the US tour. Anna, they're fucking amazing. This band is great. You know, they play Whitesnake music, of course, fantastic, but they play Deep Purple music, fantastic. It's definitely even more so than on the record. You will hear yourself when we play in Macedonia. It's very powerful, and you can tell the musicians are enjoying themselves, and you can see it and you can hear it, and hopefully can feel it too. So I'm doubly excited for going out and presenting this music.
I don't care if my lady's gone.
You've mentioned previously, I feel like you're entering a circle or closing a cycle with this album. How?
Well, yeah, you know.
How are you opening the new one?
Well, it's interesting, Anna, because when I was mixing the Purple album with my co-producer Michael McIntyre and Reb, it felt to me, you know, I was 63 years old. I'm going, man, you know, how long do I have to do this? This would be a perfect closure for me to finish as I started. But it's just kind of, in essence, it's re-energized me. I still write new music. We'll be recording some new music next year. But it's just revitalized me, re-energized. That's all I can say, you know. So any ideas that I had 6 months ago of retiring, I was totally honest about when I was making interviews that I thought, you know, this is probably it. But I had an incredibly good time on the US tour with my musicians. It was incredible.
It's very exciting for me to hear this from you, because it seems like you find some new challenge in old material, which is also very exciting. I mean,
yeah, well, it was very important to us not just to amazing discovery for me when I rediscovered this music was how fucking incredible Deep Purple was. You know, because I'm not a nostalgic guy. I don't listen to this music all the time. Not at all. I had to reintroduce myself to these songs. And it wasn't a situation of just recreating them. It was a situation of reinventing some of them. You know, there was not one moment that I said to any of my musicians, I want you to play this like Ian Pace. I want you to play this like Tommy Bolin or Glenn Hughes. The musicians, starting with Tommy Aldridge on drums, came in and made their individual statement on these songs. And it was, everybody contributed to this project in the most positive way. And even now that we've been performing these songs, it's even better than when we were recording them. And it just makes it more inspiring to look at the future for new stuff, you know, with these guys. They're fabulous musicians, great people. I have no desire to hang up my rock and roll sneakers just yet.
You're inspiring me also, if I may say.
Lay down, stay down.
At the California Jam Festival,
Yes.
you went on stage with $1 million check that Warner Brothers gave you in your pocket.
Correct. In my ass pocket of my jeans, because it was the safest place in the area.
Can you please tell me that story? I mean, why?
Well, the accountant had just received this check for $1 million, and I think partly it was just we were all having fun. And they said, here, put this in the management said, here, put this in your pocket, because I was in camera view all the time, so nobody could steal it. It was just bullshit, you know. Also, there was a woman backstage called Linda Lovelace, who some people know from pornography, from a movie called Deep Throat. She was trying to meet the members of Deep Purple, but nobody had heard of the movie yet.
I bet you were sorry you didn't invite her later.
It's funny because when we flew off in a beautiful private jet called the Starship, Warner Brothers had sent us a bunch of movies to watch on the plane. And somebody went, oh, Deep Throat. Hey, hang on, wasn't that girl so-and-so, so-and-so? So that video was put on, and everybody wanted the pilot to turn around and go back to the California Jam. Very funny.
Mr. Coverdale, under what circumstances would you cut your hair?
Well, actually, I did cut it in 97. My son, I don't know whether you have children, but children have a potential of grabbing things and just trying to eat them, whether it's dirt or plants or toys. And my son was just grabbing my hair all the time, you know, when I was holding him when he was a baby. And I was going, oh, fuck this. It just felt like time to cut it. And of course, it was absolutely fine for me privately. But when I performed in 97, it really sucked that I didn't have my lion's mane. Yeah, so I'm enjoying it. My wife's enjoying it. She's not too sure about my sideburns because I'm doing this little tribute to the 70s with my facial hair on the side. But yeah, my hair's longer now than it's been for a long time, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So I have, at this moment in time, no plans of cutting it.
You've mentioned your wife, your third wife, Cindy, for the second time during this interview, so I have to ask. She must be marvelous to be able to keep a rock star status yourself for more than 25 years.
She's my absolute best friend, the mother of my amazing son. And Jasper was born when I was 45. I never thought for any moment that I would have any more children. I have a stunning daughter, and now I have 2 granddaughters, so I'm a walking grandfather. But Jasper has helped keep me young, and it's the most precious thing in the world. My most difficult journey is leaving them, and my favorite journey is returning to them. You know? And they, of course, joined me on the road. I thought my son would have joined me more on this summer trip, because once he starts college, I think he's going to be more limited in time so he can fly around and travel with me around the world. But I have every confidence he's going to be a superstar. If you want to see my wife, you know, we're very private about our lives, but she is my featured guest in a video we made a few years ago called Love Will Set You Free. So, you know, she's in that video. And she's also, I think, on the cover of my Into the Light album as my angel, which, of course, she is.
I'm sure for more than 25 years she must be.
Amazing, yeah. You know, it's not so much work, but we're both aware that how precious it is, so we make sure we keep it fresh. It's like taking care of a beautiful garden. You know, if you ignore it or leave it too long, then weeds can grow. It's an amazing time. I'm blessed in every avenue of my life, Anna.
I hope that our listeners that will hear this interview will take some of your actions and put them in their everyday life so they have what you have now.
Yeah, well, it's nothing to do really with wealth or success or whatever. It's a mindset. It's, you know, I can see around the world the difficulties and the struggles that so many people have, but if you allow it to submerge you, you know, you'll drown in negative stuff. Anybody just has to watch one program of the news to see how troubled our beautiful world is. But the circumstance is it shouldn't close you off to inspiration and expression and love. You know, those are things that we can always rely on to help keep us from drowning.
You are a holder of US and UK dual citizenship, right?
Correct, yes.
So, I must ask, the States or England?
I think my penis is British.
How come? Is he posh?
Well, whenever I hear the national anthem, he stands up and salutes. I don't know. It depends where I'm doing interviews. If I'm being interviewed in England, of course, the best part of me is British. And if I'm doing interviews in America, the other part is American. But the most important thing to realize, I wanted to have a voice in politics. I'm very politically aware and motivated. I just don't use the stage or my music as a political vehicle. It's important for me not to do that for personal reasons, but I'm very, very involved politically and very aware. So I wanted to have a voice during the Bush-Cheney time rather than just sitting in an armchair and complaining. And then, so I did have a voice then to be able to vote and make a difference. It's absolutely important you guys vote rather than just sit and complain about the government. Change it. You have the power to do it.
So now I have to ask this. The presidential elections 2016 in US.
Well, you're asking me to discuss things publicly which I hold private and sacred.
Okay.
So it's pretty, when I give my music to President Obama, he could use it free. There's a clue.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm David Coverdale from Whitesnake. Please come and see Whitesnake performing Whitesnake music and Deep Purple music in Macedonia. It's going to be unforgettable for all of us. See you soon, baby.